So an absolute value symbol you've seen previously in middle school classes, what it does is it makes any number be positive. So if you plug in a -4, the absolute value bars make it turn into +4. If you plug in a positive, it stays a positive. So the absolute values turn all numbers to positives. So let's look at solving them. So this is saying the absolute value of what number will be 8. So if you were to plug in an 8, it would still come out as a +8. If you plugged in -8, it would also come out as +8. So you could plug in either 8 or -8, and that would be your answer. So if it's just the absolute value of a variable equals a number, your answer is 8 and -8. You can also write it +-8, that indicates +8 and -8. You can write it either way. Now to graph the solutions, all they're asking you to do is to just go on a number line and to go ahead and graph a dot where each solution is. So in this case, you would have a solution at -8 and at +8. So this problem right here, think to yourself, what number can you plug in for x that will come out a -12? Now remember, absolute value bars make everything in the absolute value turn into a positive number. So no matter what you plug in, if you plug in 12, it will come out +12. If you plug in a -12, it will turn it to +12. There is nothing you can plug into an absolute value that will end up being a negative after the absolute value is done with it. So anytime you see an absolute value that equals a negative number, so when the absolute value is by itself and it equals a negative number on the other side, then you can automatically put no solution. Let's go ahead and try one on the check for understanding. I'd like you to go ahead and try A. All right, so since it is absolute value equals 10, your answer is going to be 10 and -10. Or you could have written your answer as ±10. We're going to go ahead and go back and finish example 1 before we complete the remaining check for understanding problems. So on the second half of example 1, the difference is that inside your absolute value bar, it is not just an x, there is another number. So when you do this, these are all inside the absolute value bar, but there's nothing outside of it. There's no number out here multiplying times all the absolute value or a number here being added or subtracted. So this absolute value bar is by itself. That means you're ready to solve. So remember, it can equal a positive number, and there will be two solutions. And what we did on the more simple problems is we just said, okay, it equals ±8 or equals ±10. Well, this equals +6 and it equals -6. The only difference from the previous problems is that what's inside the absolute value bar is more than just x. So it's not just that x equals 6, it's x minus 4 equals 6 and x minus 4 equals -6. So I wrote what was inside the absolute value bar and I made two equations. I said what was inside equal to 6 and what was inside equal to -6. And now I'm ready to solve as if it was just a regular equation. So I add the 4 and I get x equals 10 and I add the 4 and I get x equals -2. And then if I wanted to graph the solutions on a number line, I would just put a dot at 10 and at -2. Let's go ahead and look at how you check your solution. So when you have x minus 4 absolute value bars equals 6, try plugging 10 in for the x. So 10 minus 4 is inside the bars equals 6. 10 minus 4 is 6 inside the absolute value, and absolute value bars take 6 and make it be regular 6. So it does check out because 6 equals 6. Let's also try plugging in -2 for x. So we're going to plug in -2 where the x was. We still have the absolute value bars, the -4, and the equals 6. So -2 minus 4 is -6, still inside the absolute value bars. The absolute value bars take this -6 right here and turn it into positive. And that shows you 6 equals 6, that does check out. So our answers of 10 and negative 2 were correct. All right, looking at example D, you can tell that this absolute value bar is all by itself. There are things inside, but there's nothing outside multiplying, there's nothing dividing, there's nothing adding or subtracting. On its side of the equal sign, it just is the absolute value bar by itself. So that means we're ready to look at it. Now take note that it does say the absolute value of all of this equals negative 5. And remember, we learned that when you have absolute value bars all by themselves that equal a negative number, you automatically can put no solution because there is nothing we can plug in that will end up with a negative after the absolute value bars turn it all positive. Let's go back to our check for understanding problems. So just by looking, which problem B or problem C, will automatically be no solution? All right, you should have hit problem C. C will automatically be no solution. And the reason is the absolute value equals a negative number. And if it's the absolute value bars equal a negative, you automatically put no solution. Go ahead and set up the two equations for check for understanding problem B. All right, so hopefully you wrote x minus 1 equals 4 and x minus 1 equals negative 4. And if that's the case, you're ready to go ahead and continue to solve. So I'm going to add 1, so I get 5. I'm going to add 1 over here, and I get negative 3. So my two solutions are 5 and negative 3.